the theft of an entire country. Sound improbable? Well, just wait till you hear the tale of why China is trying to steal Taiwan. Before we can delve into the nitty-gritty, how about we do a little bit of geography first? Most of us know who and where China is. It is the fourth largest country in the world and has the second largest economy, just pipped at the post by the United States. Suffice it to say, this is a powerful country with a fair amount of pull in the global landscape. In comparison, Taiwan is tiny. It is an island located about 100 miles off the coast of southeast China. To help gauge how big this country is, think of Maryland and Delaware. Taiwan is slightly smaller than those two states combined. So why would a superpower like China be so obsessed with Taiwan? Well, firstly, China's occupation of Taiwan goes way back. It all started in the 17th century when the Qing dynasty had control over the country. After the First Sino-Japanese War in 1895, China gave control of Taiwan over to Japan. However, control went back to China after World War II. Soon after, a civil war broke out in China, which the Communist Party ended up winning. The losing Nationalist Party, led by Chiang Kai-shek, retreated to Taiwan and ruled over the small island for decades. The People's Republic of China was established under Mao Zedong in 1949. Taiwan, on the other hand, goes by the Republic of China. To keep things simple, we'll just use the name Taiwan. Now, things start to get a bit murky because Taiwan claims that it is not part of the People's Republic of China and is instead an independent country. However, the People's Republic relies on its history of exerting control over the island as justification for why it still claims Taiwan as part of its territory. Currently, only 14 countries recognize Taiwan as a sovereign state. The reason this number isn't higher is because, quite frankly, most countries are more afraid of China than they care to admit. Even the United States refuses to take a stance either way. The US claims to acknowledge that the People's Republic claims sovereignty over Taiwan, but they do not endorse this position. They call this the One China policy. Basically, the US recognizes one Chinese government, and also has formal ties with China instead of Taiwan. Despite this policy, the US still provides Taiwan with weapons to defend itself, and President Biden has even come out to confirm that the US would protect Taiwan in the event of a war. Sounds like some masterful fence-sitting to us, but hey, what do we know? But again, why would a superpower be interested in little old Taiwan? Money, of course. It turns out that Taiwan is the biggest manufacturer of computer chips in the world. In fact, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company produces 65% of all the computer chips in the world. You might be thinking, all this for some stupid computer chips? But if you think about it, computer chips are crucial for the manufacture of some of our favorite devices. Laptops, game consoles, watches, cell phones, all of these need computer chips. Without this little piece of tech, you couldn't film TikToks on your new iPhone or count your steps on your smartwatch. You wouldn't even be watching this YouTube video right now. Think back to 2021, when there was a global chip shortage due to COVID and the US imposing sanctions on China's chip manufacturer. It caused massive issues with the supply chain of some of the big companies in the digital space. Apple even had to cut its production of the iPhone 13 by 10 million units to account for the shortage. So yeah, these chips are incredibly important, and by extension, Taiwan is incredibly important not just for China, but for the entire global economy. Let's say China does invade Taiwan and take over control. Then what? Well, if China can control Taiwan, its influence over Asia would grow exponentially. Basically, China would dominate Asia. Considering that Asia is set to account for more than 50% of the global GDP, China's control over Asia would make it arguably the most powerful country in the world. It would become the biggest bully on the playground, deciding who plays with whom. If you do what the bully likes, then you are safe. But if you don't, then you would buckle under tariffs and blocked supply chains. China could also use this control to force the US out of Asia, thereby dealing a huge blow to America's global military foothold. America would cease to be what it is today, and its economy would feel the strain. Whether China would be successful in its invasion is another story. It's believed that if China were to invade Taiwan, America and other allies like Japan would come to the island's aid. This would successfully deter Chinese military forces, but would be incredibly costly for all parties involved. Alright, so we know what would happen in the event of an invasion, but is this likely to happen anytime soon? No one is too sure on that one. However, there have been some recent events that have ramped up tensions in the area. Former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August 2022, despite China warning her to stay away. Her visit was particularly significant because she is the highest-ranking official from the United States to visit in 25 years. She said about her trip, "We take this trip at a time when the world faces a choice between autocracy and democracy. As Russia wages its premeditated illegal war against Ukraine, it is essential that America and our allies make clear that we never give in to autocrats." Oof, testy. As expected, her little field trip did not go down well. Even her fellow Democrat President Biden stated that it was poor timing. After this controversial visit, China began running military exercises around Taiwan. China saw this visit as a provocation and stated those who play with fire will perish by it. As tensions continue to rise, some have made predictions about when threats would become action and a full-blown war would ensue. A leaked memo written by a US general states that he has a gut feeling that the Taiwan situation would mean that the US would be at war with China by 2025. Others have predicted that the war would happen anytime between now and 2049. There are some cynics, however, that believe both China and the US are overselling how imminent this potential war is. They both stand to benefit from the world thinking that the two superpowers are about to lock horns. China gets bargaining power while the US can justify its military spending. A win-win except for the rest of us who wait to see whether the big men in big offices decide to up the ante of this pissing contest. Okay, so we realize that when this topic comes up, everyone forgets about the country at the center of it all, Taiwan. She and her people are often treated like children in a messy divorce. They are used as a reason for the parents to fight, but is the fight even about them? So what do the Taiwanese people think? Would they even mind an invasion? The answer to the latter question is a resounding no. Well, for the most part. Most Taiwanese people now see themselves as just Taiwanese and not as Chinese or a mixture of both. However, there are some people who wouldn't mind a unification between China and Taiwan. Surveys have found that between 5 and 10% of respondents would welcome the unification of the two countries. These respondents often tend to be an older crowd, who were children of Chinese nationalist soldiers who fled to Taiwan. Though there is a tiny fraction of the country that don't mind unification, this number is quickly dwindling with more and more Taiwanese people seeking to preserve their independence. What now? Well, now we just wait for what some deem an inevitable war. What this will mean for our beloved digital devices remains to be seen, so for now, we might as well enjoy these luxuries while we still have them. Come to think of it, you should just go ahead and click the subscribe button. You know, in the interest of enjoying this digital age.